Magandang araw po muli sa inyo mga kahanggan. Muli ay isang bagong araw na naman, bagong kabanata sa ating buhay, saan man tayo naroroon, sa ating mga tahanan, sa lugar ng ating hanap buhay, o kung nasaan man, nandiyan sa Pilipinas o nasa ibayong dagat. Sana ay ligtas tayo sa anumang kapamakan at karamdaman. Sana ay lumipas ang maghapon na ito na matiwasay at mapayapa. Sa madaling salita, lumipas sana ang maghapon na ito na walang aberya, walang problema, at walang mga suliranin bawat isa sa atin. Sa araw na ito ay talakayin natin ang ilang mahalagang elemento na nakapaloob sa health and safety management systems. The key elements of a health and safety management system according to NEBOSH International General Certificate. Safety management systems. What is safety management system? Safety management systems help organizations to meet their health and safety requirements. Some of popular management system models are HSG 65 series of 2003, which means successful health and safety management systems. ILO-OHS series of 2001 Guidelines on Occupational Safety and Health Management Systems. It is based on ILO or International Labour Organization. And OHSAS 1801 series of 1999, which means occupational health and safety management systems. It is based on British standards. Although there are some variations in the three systems, basically they all have the same elements. These are policy, organizing, planning and implementation, measuring performance, reviewing, and audit. Policy. Policy means the health and safety aims of the organization, health and safety objectives, and management commitment. It means that policy will base on the organization objectives and commitment to health, safety, and environment. Organizing, clear roles and responsibilities, competence, commitment and control, cooperation, and communication. Organizing means the roles and responsibilities of each and every employees and must have the competence, commitment, and control over the said organization. Planning and implementation. Identified hazards, assess risk and decide how risk can be eliminated or controlled, set standards against which performance can be measured. Planning and implementation simply means that we have to identify all hazards in our workplace and put control into which these hazards can be eliminated or reduced up to the acceptable level. Measuring performance. Used as a means of determining the extent to which health and safety policy and objectives are being implemented and should be both reactive and proactive. So in measuring performance, it means that our health and safety policy objectives and all of the implementations are thoroughly followed and should be both reactive and proactive. Reviewing, analyzing data gathered through monitoring to see whether performance is adequate. In review, we have to check on based on all of the data gathered from the pairs for elements of health and safety management system to see whether performance is set as an adequate or need to modified or need to add some more details. Audit is a systematic critical examination of each state of an organization's management systems and procedure. So here in auditing, we have to examine each state of health and safety management system of the organizations and procedure to see whether it is it met the other level of standard. Setting policy. The policy should set out the health and safety aims and objectives of the organization and management commitment. The health and safety policy influences all workplace activities such as selection of people, the equipment, materials, and the way work is done, as well as specifying the procedures for identifying hazards, assessing risks, and preventing or controlling them. To ensure the policy is working, the following questions need to be asked. Are staff aware of the policy and do they understand it? Is the policy compatible with overall company policy? Does the policy delegate responsibilities to competent individuals? Does the policy indicate to directors and managers how to assess risk and allocate resources? Is the policy a working document? So, those questions need a positive feedback regardless of what the condition is in certain organization, from the employer and down to the employees section. Organizing. Organizations need to get staff involved and committed. This is often referred to as a positive health and safety culture. Successful organizing can be achieved by ensuring the 4 C's are in place. The 4 C's of positive health and safety culture. Competence, from the recruitment, training, and advisory support. Control, allocating responsibilities, securing commitment, instruction, and supervision. Cooperation between individuals and the groups, and communication, spoken, written, and visual. Planning and implementing. Planning is the key to ensuring that your health and safety efforts really work. Planning for health and safety involves setting objectives, identifying hazards, assessing risk, implementing standards of performance, and developing a positive culture. It is useful to record plans in writing. Planning should be undertaken for 1. Identifying hazards and assessing risk, and deciding how they can be eliminated or controlled. Complying with health and safety laws that apply to the business. Agreeing health and safety targets with managers and supervisors. A purchasing and supply policy which takes health and safety into account. Design of tasks, processes, equipment, products and services, and safe systems of work. procedures to deal with serious and imminent danger, cooperation with neighbors and or subcontractors, setting standards against which performance can be measured, and generate SMART objectives. SMART objective means S is for specific, M is for measurable, A is for achievable, R must be realistic, and T, it must be time bound. Statements such as staff must be trained are difficult to measure if employees don't know exactly what trained means and who is to do the work. All machines will be guarded is difficult to achieve if there is no measure of the adequacy of guarding. Many industry-based standards already exist and you can adapt them where applicable. Measuring performance. Measuring performance should be used as a means of determining the extent to which health and safety policy and objectives are being implemented and should be both reactive and proactive. Active monitoring means looking at these things before things go wrong, and it involves regular inspections and checking to ensure that the standards are being implemented and management controls are working, while reactive monitoring is after something goes wrong. It involves learning from your mistakes, whether they have resulted in injuries and illness, property damage, or near misses. So active monitoring meaning you have to first act prior to the mistakes taking into effect. An organization needs to ensure that information from active and reactive monitoring is used to identify situations that create risk and do something about them. Further points to consider include directors and managers may not be aware of practices occurring in their departments. Monitoring needs to be both proactive and reactive. Monitoring systems should be introduced in each department. Audit and review. Monitoring provides the information you need to review activities and decide how to improve performance based on your activities or workplace activities. Audits conducted by an organization's own staff or by outsiders complement monitoring activities by determining whether the policy, organization, and systems are actually achieving the right results. They tell you about the reliability and effectiveness of your systems. The emphasis is to learn from these experiences, combines the results from measuring performance with information from audits to improve the approach to health and safety management. Audit is a systematic, critical examination of each stage of an organization's management systems and procedures. Improvement will be obtained by continuous reviewing and auditing of performance. When reviewing the effectiveness of the health and safety policy, paying particular attention to the following is a must: the degree of compliance with health and safety performance standards, including the legislation, areas where standards are absent or inadequate, achievement of stated objectives within given time scales, injury, illness, and incident data analysis of immediate and underlying causes, trends, and common features. These indicators will show an organization where it needs to improve. Based on the ILO OHS 2001, the policy means that the employer, in consultation with workers and their representative, should set out in writing an OHS policy which should be specific to the organization and appropriate to its size and the nature of its activity. Concise, clearly written, dated, and made effective by the signature of endorsement of the employer or the most senior accountable person in the organization, and must be communicated and readily accessible to all persons at their place of work, reviewed for continuing suitability, and made available to relevant external interested parties as appropriate. Organizing. The employer should have overall responsibility for the protection of workers' safety and health in providing leadership or OHS activities in the organization. A person or persons at senior management levels should be appointed where appropriate with responsibility, accountability, and authority for developing, implementing, and the periodic review and evaluation of the OHS management system. Other elements in organizing are competence and training, commitment and control, cooperation, and communication. Planning and implementation. The organization's existing OHS management system and relevant arrangement should be evaluated by an initial review as appropriate. The initial review should be carried out by competent persons in consultation with workers and their representatives as appropriate, and it should be identify the current applicable national laws and regulations, national guidelines, tailored guidelines, voluntary programs, and other requirements to which the organization subscribes. Identify, anticipate, and assess hazards and risks to safety and health arising from the existing or proposed work environment and work organization. Determine whether planned or existing controls are adequate to eliminate hazards or control risk. Analyze the data provided from workers' health surveillance. The purpose of planning should be to create an OHS management system that supports compliance with national laws and regulations as a minimum. The elements of the organization's OHS management system and continual improvement in OHS performance. Audit. Arrangement to conduct periodic audits should be established in order to determine whether the OHS management system and its elements are in place, adequate, and effective in protecting the safety and health of workers and preventing incidents. An audit policy and program should be developed, which includes a designation of auditor competency and audit scope, the frequency of audits, audit methodology, and reporting. Management reviews. Management reviews should evaluate the overall strategy of the OHS management system to determine whether it meets planned performance objectives. Evaluate the OHS management system's ability to meet the overall needs of the organization and its stakeholders, including its workers and the regulatory authorities. Evaluate the need for changes to the OHS management system including OHS policy and objectives. Identify what action is necessary to remedy any deficiencies in a timely manner, including adaptations of other aspects of the organization's management structure and performance measurement. Provide the feedback direction, including the determination of priorities for meaningful planning and continual improvement. Evaluate progress towards the organization's OHS objectives and corrective action activities. And last, evaluate the effectiveness of follow-up actions from earlier management reviews. Action for improvement. Arrangement should be established and maintained for preventive and corrective action resulting from OHS management system performance, monitoring, and measurement. OHS management system audits and management reviews. These arrangements should include identifying and analyzing the root causes of any non-conformity with relevant OHS regulations and or management systems arrangement. Initiating, planning, implementing, checking the effectiveness of and documenting corrective and preventive action, including changes to the OHS management system itself. When the evaluation of the OHS management system or other sources indicate that preventive and protective measures for hazards and risks are inadequate or likely to become inadequate, the measures should be addressed according to the recognized hierarchy of prevention and control measures and completed and documented as appropriate and in a timely manner. We will talk that the elements according to OHSAS 1801 standards. The OHS policy establishes an overall sense of direction within an organization and sets out the principles of actions for OHS. As with other management systems, the OHS policy should be properly documented, implemented, and of course, maintained. The policy shall be appropriate to the nature and the scale of the organization's OHS risk, include a commitment to continual improvement, include a commitment to at least comply with current applicable OHS legislation and with other requirements to which the organization subscribes. Be documented, implemented, and maintained. Be communicated to all employees with the intent that employees are made aware of their individual OHS obligations. Be available to interested parties. Be reviewed periodically to ensure that it remains relevant and appropriate to the organizations. Planning. The organization shall establish and maintain procedures for the ongoing identification of hazards, the assessment of risk, and the implementation of necessary control measures. These shall include routine and non-routine activities, activities of all personnel having access to the workplace, including subcontractors and visitors, facilities at the workplace, whether provided by the organization or others. Implementation and operation. The roles, responsibilities, and authorities of personnel who manage, perform, and verify activities and having an effect on the OHS risk of the organization's activities, facilities, and processes shall be defined, documented, and communicated in order to facilitate OHS management control. Ultimate responsibility for OHS rests with top management. The organization shall appoint a member of top management with particular responsibility for ensuring that the OHS management system is properly implemented and performing to requirements in all locations and spheres of operation within the organization. Checking and corrective action. The organization shall establish and maintain procedures to monitor and measure OHS performance on a regular basis. These procedures shall provide for both qualitative and quantitative measures appropriate to the needs of the organization. Monitoring of the extent to which the organization's OHS objectives are met, proactive measures of performance that monitor compliance with the OHS management program, operational criteria, and applicable legislation and regulatory requirements. Reactive measures of performance to monitor accidents, ill health, incidents including near misses, and other historical evidence of deficient OHS performance. Recording of data and results of monitoring and measurement sufficient to facilitate subsequent corrective and preventive action analysis. If monitoring equipment is required for performance, measurement, and monitoring, the organization shall establish and maintain procedures for the calibration and maintenance of such equipment. Records of calibration and maintenance activities and results shall be retained. Management review. The organization's top management shall review the OHS management system to ensure its continuing suitability, adequacy, and effectiveness. The management review process shall ensure that the necessary information is collected to allow management to carry out this evaluation. The review shall be documented. The management review shall address the possible need for changes to policy, objectives, and other elements of the OHS management system. Should any changes to the system be introduced, then this will need to be communicated to all concerned as soon as possible. So, mga kahanggan, yung aking mga tinalakay na yan ay ang mga mahalagang bagay na nakapaloob sa Health and Safety Management System na base sa tatlong international organization standard na yung una ay sa HSG 65 series of 2003, which indicates that successful health and safety management systems o health safety and environment. At yung based on sa ILO, sa OHS series of 2001, which means that guidelines on occupational safety and health management system from International Labor Organization, at saka yung huli natin tinalakay yung pangatlo ay based doon sa OHSAS 1801 series of 1999, which means occupational health and safety management system based on British standard. So halos pare-pareho naman yung nila, yung mga nilalaman ng mga mahalagang bagay na nakapaloob sa health and safety management system, na yun nga, policy, organizing, planning and the implementation, measuring performance, reviewing and audit. Halos pare-pareho lang yun. Ang maganda doon ay yung mga positibong pagtingin ng ating mga employer sa health, safety, and environment issue para sa kapakanan ng lahat. Sabihin sa kapakanan ng kanilang pag-aari, kanilang negosyo, ng ating hanap buhay, sa kapakanan din ng bawat mga tao na nakapaloob sa isang organisasyon o sa isang isang hanap buhay na yon, mula sa ating mga managers lahat hanggang sa pinakamababang antas ng manggagawa. So napakaganda ng isang kapaligiran, ng isang site ng hanap buhay kung ang mga namumuno sa atin o mga bagay ang ating mga amo, ating mga manager ay sa banda ay tinitingnan ang kapakanan ng bawat isa sa atin. So muli mga kahanggan, ako ay nagpapasalamat sa isang araw naman ang pagsama nyo sa akin dito sa ating talakayan. Nako mo at walang mga slide at ito lang base lang sa aking mga sinasabi, ay sana may makatulong o makapagbigay ng makapagbalik tanaw doon sa mga napatigil na sa ganitong klase ng hanap buhay, at doon sa mga naman sa mga nasa kasalukuyan ay ito pa rin yung hanap buhay, ay sana ay makapagbigay ng dagdag kaalaman. At doon sa mga magsisimula pa lang ay magsilbing gabay at pundasyon, karagdagang kaalaman doon sa inyong mga natutunan sa anman na mga training institute kayo nag-aral tungkol sa health, safety, and environment. Sana'y makakaragdag sa inyong mga natutunan at ma-apply nyo sa inyong mga lugar ng hanap buhay. Muli, ako po ay nagpapasalamat at pagpalain po tayong lahat ng dakilang lumikha at ilayo sa pang-araw-araw na kapahamakan para tilihing malakas ang ating pangangatawan, ang ating kondisyon ng kaisipan, kondisyon ng ating pangangatawan, at ilayo sa kasalukuyang pandemya na hindi natin nakikita. Maraming pong salamat at isang magandang araw na muli sa ating lahat. Kung ito pong aking upload na ito ay sana ay makatulong kahit sa ganitong pamamaraan man lamang. Pagpasensyahan nyo na po at wala pa tayo mga tamang materyales. Nagtitis pa lamang din sa aking cellphone na rin. At wala itong mga edit-edit. Basta kung ano yung ating dire-diretso na yan, kung ano yung nai-record ko sa ating talakayan, ay yun na po ang aking i-upload. Maraming pong salamat. Isang magandang araw na muli. Mabuhay po tayong lahat.